Welcome to the entrepreneurship version of our podcast and video. My name is Brad Taylor. I'm the author of Intentional Success, The Power of Entrepreneurship, and I'm so excited to have our guest, Tori Barker, and she just started a new business, and what's it called?
Creative Marketing.
By Tori.
By Tori.
Yeah. So the reason I'm so excited to have you here is because you took a risk.
I sure did.
And, when I was doing my book tours, I had this big, huge pop-up that said, I wrote it down, risking it all to succeed. And that was my theme because as an entrepreneur, especially when you're going out, you're taking a chance.
I am.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course.
And, what did you do prior? And then we'll get into the risk.
Yeah, so I come from about 15 years marketing experience in the corporate world. I've been in commercial real estate, residential real estate, and new home construction. And I came to a point about a year ago almost that I felt like I had so much more potential and growth that I wanted to look into. And I didn't find it or couldn't find it at any corporate company that I was looking at. And so that led me down the path of entrepreneurship and starting my own business.
Was it scary?
Absolutely.
So
I have a family.
So you
it's
thought,
scary.
Obviously, before you made this plunge, you thought about it for a while.
Of course.
And the little voice in your head was telling you what?
Are you sure you want to do this?
No, seriously. So what did family and friends think about that?
My family is very supportive, which is, I think, half the battle. Because if I didn't have a strong support system, then I couldn't be doing it on my own. Because there's days when, it's challenging and I question myself, but I know that I have my family behind me and, I have 2 young boys, and so I look at them every day and they're the huge motivation for me to get up and be successful.
Running your own business gives you a lot of freedom,
Yes.
flexibility,
Yes.
but it's also scary.
Yes.
And when you're new, I know it's hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do question. And you're lucky because you had support day one.
Yes.
When I'm sure you heard my story, but when we started, my father-in-law gave us, 6 months before we'd be back. But we moved from Sarasota, Florida to Portland, Oregon to start our business.
Wow.
And he told us we were going to fail, be back in 6 months. Part of it was he probably didn't want us to leave.
Probably.
But you made that plunge, and have you always been in the design, marketing?
Yeah, so I started with graphic design and then fell into marketing. And really the social media, digital marketing realm has really been a passion for me. And finding new ways to be creative and think outside the box to achieve that goal for.
I liked your inspirational post on your website.
Oh,
It was really cool. It's on the bottom. It's something like, what is it?
the quote?
Yes.
Creativity is intelligence having fun.
Yeah, by whom?
By Albert Einstein.
Right.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I almost copied
Yeah.
it as a
I
post.
love that quote.
No,
It's my
that was
favorite.
great.
Yeah.
So when you first started in marketing, though, in design, there was no social media.
Not really.
Just like when we started our business years ago, there was nothing. It was print,
Yeah.
direct mail, that was it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
digital world
It was
wasn't
a traditional
around.
marketing
Right.
platform.
So how have you seen everything change over the years?
Well, social media, websites have changed dramatically since when I started. I started in the commercial real estate industry in marketing and graphic design. And, the websites have changed, the capabilities of websites, the platforms to market through, being social media being a huge one that was added. And just the possibilities that it opens up and the network that you can expand and reach to has been exponential.
I remember when Apple came out with their iPad and phone, and those of us who had websites that were built on Flash, it wouldn't work. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
On an iPhone. And now all of a sudden the whole paradigm of everyone having to change their website because of Apple.
Yeah.
And it probably was a good thing at the end of the day because it forced us to do what we probably should have been doing. But yeah, that whole flash thing was.
Well, and if you think about cell phones too, Blackberries to smartphones now, you
Yes.
can almost run a business from a smartphone.
Yeah.
Creating design and technology, posting social and creating ads all from your cell phone. It's amazing.
My son is an intern for a music studio, and he's designing these posts for their Instagram.
Yeah.
And my wife and I asked him the other day, who's designing these posts? And he says, well, I am. And what are you doing it on? He says, an app. And these posts were so awesome that we couldn't believe he was designing these.
There's an app for everything.
Yeah, there's an app for everything. So social media is really changing.
Yes.
What do you think of social media and business today?
I think it's essential to business. I think that not only do you need organic social media marketing, but also paid advertising through the social media, because that's really where your bang for your buck is going to come, the return on investment. The platforms are almost making it impossible for you to gain some traction organically. You have to do it with some paid advertising. But still,
Yeah.
I mean, the advertising through the social platforms is way more efficient in cost than the traditional platforms. Just the capability, the trackability, the analytics that you can get from it are just crazy.
If somebody was starting a business from scratch, what would be the first social media platform?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah, it's still the top dog. I mean, Instagram's up there, but Facebook business pages is going to be the best.
Do you
bet.
think Facebook reaches a broader demographic than Instagram?
I think it's a different demographic.
Yeah.
So Instagram's typically a younger demographic, more visual. So like photographers are really successful on Instagram.
Right.
But Facebook is more of the upper demographic, business savvy type people.
But I think it reaches probably the 30 to 80-year-old
Yeah, 50, 60
demographics.
plus. Yeah.
Because I think today, our parents and even grandparents are on Facebook,
Yeah.
whereas they're typically not on Instagram.
Right. I agree.
But what do you think about LinkedIn?
I think LinkedIn is very efficient too. So that's a really useful business to business tool. Especially,
More of a networking,
Yes.
professional
Yes.
networking site. It is not a Facebook.
No.
And I think sometimes people forget that LinkedIn is a whole separate
Yeah, it's
entity.
great for business connections,
Right.
but it's not really a consumer platform.
Correct.
So if you were in real estate, you're not really going to find a consumer on LinkedIn.
Right.
But if you're looking to network with other realtors in different areas or lenders or title companies, that's a perfect platform.
I tell realtors that if they're not on LinkedIn, they're making a mistake because when they're doing a listing presentation, there's a good chance that if it's a professional they're trying to get that listing from, they're going to look them up on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is SEO from LinkedIn is huge. So if someone types in your name into a Google search,
Oh yeah, it's
LinkedIn's
huge.
guaranteed
Oh,
to be
it's
top
awesome.
5.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so if anything, people, when they Google you, they're going to see that you're a professional and that you have reputable
What do you think
business.
about Pinterest?
Oh, I love Pinterest.
I love
personally.
Pinterest too. We get very good results professionally. We have hundreds of thousands of people that view our Pinterest.
Yeah.
But it's all images.
Yeah.
I think you have to have the images.
Yes.
It's kind of like Instagram.
I've heard that it can be really successful to convert leads, but I haven't personally gotten into that.
But it's
there's
a great SEO tool as well.
Yes, yeah, because there's a lot of lead generating that you can do with links to your website or whatever content that you're pushing to. But
What do you think about social media and kids?
well,
I didn't mean to throw you for a twist.
no, well, I
But
mean,
what do you think? How do you think social media today is versus 10 years ago
Well, I think there's a lot of positive and there's a lot of negative.
Yeah.
I recently did a podcast on the art of conversation and how conversation has been lost. And I think part of that has to do with technology and social media.
You're spot on.
Because you are so focused on communicating digitally that you lose the face-to-face. And there's so much more that you can gain from an in-person conversation.
Right.
And not only that, but communication skills. So I think kids are losing that form of communication.
I think they're losing the one-on-one.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because all our older kids, my older kids, there was no social media.
Yeah.
And then the last two, my daughter who's 18 and my son who's 16, it's all about social media.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I get concerned because, it's almost like you have to say, hey, no phones while we're at dinner or whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
And today, when you go to a restaurant, everybody's on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's talking anymore.
Yep,
they're just all looking at they're looking at their phone. But it's like about a couple months ago, the two kids, my 18-year-old daughter just graduated, who's going to college, and my 16-year-old son, they got into the TikTok.
Oh.
Now, TikTok is a platform basically for short video and music.
Yeah. Okay.
So my son asked this girl to homecoming, and he did a video on TikTok. So he did it with her. So he sang this rap song that he made in the car, recorded it a week ago, and it has 2.3 million views on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
And my daughter did something similar with her boyfriend and has like 1.8 million views.
Oh my gosh.
But the problem with social media and kids is it's becoming addictive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And you're right, it's like they lose that communication and they lose the one-on-one, and it's all now it's like everything's Snapchat, and you'll find out soon.
I know.
It'll be scary
I
when
know.
your kids.
Well, my oldest is 5, and then my youngest is 2. And so I know
They're growing up.
They're growing up with it. They know how to use YouTube. They can find videos on YouTube. At 2 years old, I never had that when I was growing up, and it's just crazy.
There was no YouTube.
I know.
There was nothing. When I was first starting our business, this was in the 90s. There was MySpace and AOL.
Oh yeah, I remember MySpace.
And AOL. Now, like it used to be, you couldn't bring a phone to high school.
Yeah.
Now they don't have calculators anymore. You bring your phone and you use your phone as your calculator
Oh my gosh.
for algebra, geometry, whatever you're doing.
Wow.
It used to be that the
I'm in
schools would
for
give
it.
out calendars. Now they don't give out calendars. You use your phone.
You connect to the
It's-
school
it's
digital
all-
calendar.
Now the cool thing about technology is now you have the most teachers record their class, and you can go back and view a lesson if you don't understand it.
Yeah, that's true.
But the whole paradigm of technology has changed.
Yeah, I know. With a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, I can only imagine.
Oh, I don't even know. I mean,
what they're going
there may
to
not be
be.
textbooks.
I know.
I don't know because
iPads. Just use
it's all
your
iPads.
iPad.
Yeah. Well, now a lot of colleges you take your classes online
Yeah,
versus going to the class that day.
that's true.
Okay, so let's get back. So social media is a huge component.
Yes,
I don't think a lot of businesses realize that yet.
I agree.
I also think video content is critical, not just in the real estate industry, but
All
in
industries.
all industries.
Yeah, especially small businesses, because you can leverage video to get your message out a lot better than you could via text, content or email marketing.
Right.
And you can even incorporate video into email marketing.
You're right.
So,
Absolutely.
There's
really
a way
cool.
to utilize it.
So where do you think websites are versus social media, and how important? Like, I believe in the real estate industry, social media is going to play just as an important role as web presence. And the only reason I'm saying that is because today the consumer wants instant results.
Yeah.
They don't even want to go to a website and request information. They want to know who they can contact right away.
Yeah.
They don't want to wait 2 hours or 4 hours for somebody to respond to a form they fill out.
Right.
And I think that at least in the real estate industry, social media is going to play just as an important role as web presence. Thoughts?
From my perspective, what I'm seeing a lot is websites are a beautiful digital portfolio, but a lot of times there's not direction on the pages that you're sending your consumers to. So no calls to action, no links to contact for more information,
Right.
fillable forms.
Right.
You have to go through the pages or
Right.
drop downs
Right.
to find
No,
that
absolutely.
information.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot more of landing pages being used for converting leads and getting customers.
I think also social media, you can really target your audience,
Absolutely.
where websites just...
Yep, it's there,
It's there.
for people to find.
Right.
You have to drive traffic to it.
Right.
If you don't drive traffic to it, then people aren't going to find it.
Right.
Unless they're
It's
looking for you.
engaging.
Yes.
You have to engage.
Yes.
You want to increase your followers, engage with your
Yes.
followers.
Yeah, so you have to leverage the digital space, the social platforms, in order to get the engagement.
So let's talk about marketing. So when I go to a restaurant and I see a menu and I can't even read the menu with my glasses on, it tells me somebody didn't really think through the menu because, the font was like a 4-point font.
Yes. You're trying to cram a lot of information on one sheet of paper.
When you talk to someone that you're working with, what are some marketing suggestions you give them?
Well, consistency is one. So quality content and consistency, and then having a dynamic online platform or presence to make sure that your consumers can find you, and when they find you, they can learn about you and engage with you based on the messaging and the content that you're
Right.
showing them.
Right.
And then what I like to do in my own business is find a way to make my clients stand out. So how are they unique? If you're a real estate company, there's hundreds of real estate companies.
Right.
So what sets you apart?
What's your story?
What's your story? Yeah.
I think a lot of business. It's not just real estate industry. I think telling your story is so incredibly important when you're starting out as a business, but also as your business continues to grow.
Absolutely. And because people are going to work with people that they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And so if you can build the trust and they like you and they get to know you, then they're more likely to do business with you.
So if I was starting a business and I was referred to you, what would be the first 5 things you would tell me that I should do?
You need to check your online presence to make sure that everything is consistent.
Okay, I don't have a website yet.
Okay.
I'm coming to you again. I'm starting this business. I'm so excited, and everyone said I got to talk to Tori.
Yes.
So what would you suggest I do?
We got to start with a brand.
Okay, great.
So
That's
branding
the key.
is huge because
Huge.
you're gonna leverage branding in anything that you do moving forward. So a logo, brand identity, your messaging, your website, your social platforms. Anything that you put your name on is going to be your brand identity. So that's the
Right.
starting point, is developing a brand if you don't
And a
already
logo,
have
like
one.
you said,
Yeah.
that you would design.
Yes.
And then making sure that logo is represented on everything you do.
Yep, absolutely. You got to have it on everything because it's brand recognition.
My son was saying the other day that he wants to create a website, and I said, well, you got to make sure your name matches your URL.
Yes.
And I think one of the hard things when you're starting a business and it's not a franchise is finding a URL that matches
Yes.
your, like I saw you added by Tori.
Yes.
And that was awesome.
Yes.
Like when I did Brad Taylor, there's a very famous author called Brad Taylor. So one of the things my publisher told me is you have to come up with a URL that matches you. So I had to do the Brad Taylor.
Yeah.
That was available.
Yeah.
But that's really tough
It
to
is.
find a URL today that matches
Yeah.
your brand.
Yeah. And it's funny, I love searching URLs. Just, would this work or can I use that? And it's just fun to see what's out there and
What do you think about doing a URL that isn't a .com?
I haven't, I've heard that they can be successful, but
Yeah.
I think that there's still,
I'm not a big fan of it.
I think that you're going to get more searchability from a .com
Totally agree
because
with you.
it's more known.
Right.
I think .info could be good because it's giving the consumer the perception that you're giving info.
Right.
So something like that, but I think
But
the
you're
most
right.
platform,
You're better off doing like what you did,
yeah,
by Tori.com,
To
than to
personalize
come
it.
up with something that's not. Yeah.
yeah,
Because I do agree with you. I still think the .com is important
yeah.
in your.
It's going to be the best searchability that
Right.
you get.
So what do you when you're working with a client, what do you tell them about fonts and design and things like that, colors?
Well, I want it to match the person. So I like to get a feel for who they are, what they like, what their style is.
Awesome.
Because there's millions of fonts out there.
Right.
And they're all slightly different.
Right. No, they are.
They look the same but different. So when I design a logo, I will usually start with just a basic font because you kind of want to get the design laid out before you start digging into the font.
Right.
Once you have the design outlined, then you switch the fonts and utilize those, whether it's more modern or more typeface or a handwritten look. So something that would be representative of who the person is or the business.
That's awesome that you do that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. You meet with the person, you get a feel of what they're trying to find, and then
Yeah.
you come back to them with
Well, and then
suggestions,
the same thing
ideas.
with colors. So colors are going to be huge too because it's going to be a recognition what people see. When I was just designing my own logo and website and colors, I love green and I love the ocean and I love beaches. So I landed on a teal greenish blue color because that represents
Your
what
website,
I love.
Your website's very clean, very simple, and it's awesome.
Thank you.
It portrays who you are.
Thank you.
No, I really do.
Yeah, I really think that's the first impression that people are getting of you. So you need it to be representative of who you are, what your
Right.
business represents, and
No, it was awesome.
so yeah, I really like to take time to go through those details and look at the fonts and match what really works for the client.
I think that most business owners don't know anything about marketing.
I agree.
And they need somebody to tell them or correct them, because I've had a lot of people come to us and say, well, I'd like to do this, and I always respond back. I say, you can't read it. You will not be able to literally read this.
Yeah.
They want to write a book, and nobody's going to read a book. And I think today, with sending out email campaigns or even writing an email, you got to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And because people aren't going to read past the first 2 inches. Because most people view everything on their phone first.
True.
We tell our team that when they send out an email campaign, the first 2 inches is the call to action.
Yeah.
And if you can't put it in the first 2 inches, they probably won't read any more, because the first 2 inches are what shows up on your mobile device.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, one of my clients, her target demographic is a senior community. So that's something that with seniors, you have to make sure the font is larger and more bold, because then right off the bat, if you hand them a brochure and it's in, skinny, tiny fonts,
They're not going to read
be
it
hard.
anyway.
Yeah, they're not going to read it. But, they can't read it because it's too tiny. And so you want to appeal to your demographic. So knowing, what your demographic
Yeah, but
is.
the demographics is changing.
True.
The cell phones have forced people to get reading glasses sooner than they might want.
That's true.
No, I'm serious. And so what happens is now everybody's reading everything off their cell phone.
Yeah.
And it's harder when you have really small font.
Yeah. Well, now you can pinch and zoom.
Yeah, you can pinch it. But even go to a restaurant. I mean, this thing with these menus really kills me because you really can't read the menu.
Yeah. And it's dark in there.
It's dark. You're right.
Yep.
Light plays a key role.
You can't read it.
Okay, so let me look at my notes here. So graphic design, that was one of your first things that you really captured, and
Yep.
you love to do it.
Yep.
So why do you have a passion for what you do? Because
Well,
I can tell you're very passionate.
Yes.
I mean, to take a leap of faith, go on your own, to be a true entrepreneur, passion's 90% of.
Yeah.
If you're not passionate, you won't make it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a creative person at heart. Whether, growing up, I did crafts and painting and art type projects. I always loved being creative. My parents are both very creative, hands-on, woodworking, painting, all that stuff. And so it's kind of ingrained in me. And when I was getting into my career, I really was drawn towards graphic design because it has that design element, the creativity, the eye, and just being meticulous on what your image is portraying, and then marketing it. So once you have the design, then taking the marketing skills to promote it, and then social media. It's just everything works together. It's a well-oiled machine if you put it all together.
But I think that what you do, whether it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, the way you may do it will change, but it still is a well-needed
Yes.
talent
Yeah.
that people will embrace because regardless of the technology out there, people still need help with the basics.
Yeah. And what I think really sets me apart is that I love to educate myself. So I love to continue to learn and to grow and to adapt to new technologies as they come. And then I also have a knack for teaching people. So helping clients, consulting them on how to utilize these tools as well. But I just love to learn.
I think business owners really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think when you have a passion for what you do, and your clients know that.
Yeah.
But when you are able to consistently bring new ideas and suggestions to the table, that's priceless.
Yeah.
Because they know you're looking out for their best interests.
Right? Yeah. They're not going to just be stuck in the same.
Right, and we can't kid ourselves and think that technology isn't going to change. Every year, technology is changing.
Yeah.
The phone is getting better.
Yep.
The average phone now is as good as a camera was, 5 years ago. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now you remember your phone, you only could take a selfie one way. Now you can take a selfie both ways. Now you can do selfies it's just the way technology is changing is
Yeah.
incredible. What suggestions would you have for somebody that's thinking of starting their own business? So they've been thinking about this for a while, and they have a good job,
Yeah.
but their passion really is to go out there. They really want to do it, but that little voice in their head is telling them, you're too old, you're too young, you have a family to think about, what the heck are you doing?
I know that voice.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for somebody who would like to take that leap of faith,
Yeah.
but scared?
So what I did, and I think it would be beneficial for anyone who's looking to go out on their own and start their own business, is you got to research.
Right.
So you have to first identify what your niche is,
Right.
what you're passionate about, and is there a market for what you're passionate about that you can sell your products, sell your services.
Right.
So do your research to see if there's a market for it. And then also see who else is in that space. Who are your competitors? So are you the only one? Then that's great. If you're not, then you know what you're coming up against right out the gate. who you have to compete with and what other companies you're up against. And then I talked to my CPA, so financially, how to set myself up successfully from the get-go.
Very smart.
Yeah, so I knew,
Yeah.
because I have a family and I have a mortgage and responsibilities, so I wanted to know, what do I need to do to have my business start out, successfully. And then, get your business license, get your fictitious business name. Start off right, because a lot of people do freelance and they don't do those things, but I think it really sets you apart to have a professional business license.
Right.
And, talk to friends and family, get that support, because it's out there.
Yeah, but sometimes friends and family aren't your biggest supporters.
True.
No, seriously.
Yeah. Well, fine. You know what? You need to surround yourself with those people who are your supporters.
Right. No,
So,
you're right. You're right.
If you find that your family's not going to support you, then you need to talk to who those 5 supporters are going to be.
But I do agree that your spouse, significant other, whatever, they have to be on board,
Yes.
or you're destined to fail.
Yeah.
Because when things get tough or you get frustrated, they're not there.
Yeah.
And
Or you don't have anyone to talk to.
right.
You're 24/7 in your home, and most of the time you work from home.
Well, but when people start out, it's not like driving through the fast food restaurant and you order a ton of clients, or you order
Oh,
a
yeah.
nice income. There's a lot of delayed
gotta hustle.
gratification.
Yeah.
And I think that some people, they kid themselves and they want to start their own business, but they don't have a nest egg to
Right.
fall back on, which I love what you said about talking to,
Yeah, and what I did too is I talked to people who I thought would be interested in utilizing my services. So kind of testing the waters, like,
Right.
hey, if I went out on my own, would you be interested? Could I
Right.
help you? And started kind of.
But going on your own is different than buying a franchise, for example.
True.
So when you buy a franchise, there's a support system already in place.
Yes.
There's a system already in place, and it's probably, as long as you follow that system and you don't reinvent the wheel, you're going to have success,
Yes.
regardless of the competitors or competition out there.
Yeah.
You have a very niche business.
Yeah.
So you did something that was harder than starting a franchise because you were you.
Yes.
I mean, it's your brand at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's your reputation.
Yes.
And you didn't have a system in place that you could fall back on, which was a franchise. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
You couldn't call
The corporate.
the office and say, "Hey, what do I do next?"
Yeah.
It was up to you.
It's all me.
And I love what you said about to me, knowledge is power. And the more, it's like in my industry, 80% of your success is research.
Yes.
Well, really, 80% of your success is having the confidence and belief you're going to be successful, because the 20% is the execution.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand your industry, and you have to understand what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And research in the design and marketing, the technology is changing so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always looking at what I can add to provide as a service moving forward.
That's so great.
How I can educate myself to set myself apart from other marketing agencies. So I'm always, reading articles. And,
But I think the one thing that you have that a larger agency won't have is it's you.
Yeah.
Because you're there to hold their hand through the process.
Yeah.
You're there to guide them and tell them things they may not want to hear.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clients that I'm sure a lot of people will say, well, I want to do this, and you have to be willing to say, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And some people can't do that.
Well, and I think, one of my biggest things is I build trust with my clients. And so they trust me
Huge.
when I give them advice. And I'm hugely loyal. So I'm going to have their best interests at heart and really try to do what's best for them and their business to help them, not what's,
Right.
going to be the best.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Tell everyone a little bit more about what you do, the services you provide, and where they can find you.
Sure. So my website is creativemarketingbytori.com. And I do digital marketing, social media marketing, brand strategy, consultations, and
Design,
graphic design, of course.
print design.
I do traditional, yeah. And I also, I'm on social media, of course, so Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
And LinkedIn.
Right.
Creative Marketing by Tori.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, thank you for watching this, and if you would like to have your business or professional service represented, I'd love to be able to work with you in a podcast and video. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.